Another question. Is it? Yeah.
So, is it work? Yeah, it's working. Okay. So I feel like our society is based around like at the core maintaining order and having conformity. Like we can see it with the way like when you want to do a manif, you have to like tell the police in advance. You can't just go and like say you don't agree with the government. You have to tell the government you don't agree with them to come to police you while you're doing it. So I want to ask, like, since this is such a core value, how can we stop policing within schools? And does it require, like, besides like a shift in our education system, like how can we make the shift in our society for that, in your opinion?
All right, so the question is, given how deeply embedded ideas of policing, and I would even say punishment, are within our society, like what would it actually take to shift that on a societal level? It's a big question. I mean, one of the approaches that I find, I think it's such a huge, massive problem as you're pointing it out. I think it's helpful to try to bring it down to a smaller scale, and the scale of your friends, your family. And for me, one of the basic units of that is like conflict resolution, right? Like how do we resolve conflict between each other? How do we respond when people around us have hurt us or when we've hurt somebody? And so rethinking ideas of punishment, not only with the children around us who are in our lives, but also with each other as adults, is, I think, like one of the first small steps towards that. And then, yeah, I think as the person before said, like educating, learning, sharing, I think is a big thing. And trying to really like just do your small part. I think that one thing is also like trying to think about shifting power, shifting resources. Where do you have power? How can you mobilize that power to help people who have less power than you do, and put them in positions to have more resources, more access, and to try to make that change also tangible in like the material existence of people who actually need that support.
So, completely agree, with all of that. But I also want to add that we don't have to be afraid that the system is too big to change, right? There's no system that has existed, and history teaches us, that has not fallen. When the Roman Empire was large, they said the sun is never going to set on the Roman Empire, right? When the British monarchy was in power, and they probably thought maybe the queen was not going to die and that the monarchy is not going to collapse. We don't know what is going to happen. But sorry, too soon. No. A colleague of mine has been sanctioned by her university, so I should probably lay low on that front. Yes, yeah. But just to even bring it, closer to maybe what young people may relate to. 50 years ago, no one ever thought that the LGBTQ community would have rights, would be able to. No one could have envisioned 100 years ago that marriages would be able to take place. Even 30 years ago, no one would have ever thought we'd be asking people their pronouns. So many things shift. Women were not allowed to vote. There were laborers in factories in every industrialized nation. Of course, there's still children are still laborers in many countries today, but just systematic no system is too big to fall. No system is too large to collapse. And history teaches us that every system, capitalism is here, is destroying 1 billion years of world history, but it hasn't always existed. And so the question is, one, how do we make this system fall? And the second question is, what are we going to do to replace it? So we have to be ready for both. We have to be part of tearing down, but an abolitionist vision also says we have to be part of building something new. And they must take place simultaneously. Because we do not want, nature abhors a vacuum, right? We cannot have nothingness. So if we break something down, and this is what people say they're afraid of, right? And I really recommend, I've been reading again, we do the book, We Do This Till We Free Us. And I've been reading it over and over again. You know, it says, do we really mean abolish the police? Yes, we do. And the chapter that I've been reading again over the last few days is that hope is a discipline. And hope is a discipline, so our work to build the hope that we envision is also a discipline. It's a daily act of both breaking down the existing structures and building a community that will replace those structures. And so that's why I completely agree with you. Like, we have to build community. We have to find community. We have to care for each other. We have to do all these things while we are breaking those things down. And so, as I said to the other person that spoke, what is your role, right? Your role is both individual and it's collective. So your role is individually what I can do with myself, with my own talents and abilities. And second is, what organization can I join that will also do the bigger, broader work? And within those organizations, how can I be an abolitionist, a liberator, an educator? How can I become those things? Because none of us is naturally going to just be the person that we want to be. So it's a constant process. But I don't want us to ever be afraid. Okay, I think the original question was about, sorry, I went on a rant. The original question was about police in schools, was it?
No, that was a lot.
No. Okay, so sorry, we have so many.
You have to ask the government permission. You have to ask police.
No, you don't. You do not have to ask the government for permission. And civil disobedience, you can go and read civil disobedience books by white men, right? You don't have to read it from us if you don't want to, but civil disobedience has been what has happened. If a law is unjust, how is it just to follow that law? You know, and this is the basis of civil disobedience. And we have to continue to understand that it is not just to continue to live in a society of unjust laws. We are not doing the right thing by abiding by those laws. But we also have to set up ourselves in a way that we can then protect the people that become, you know, so if a black person does civil disobedience and a white person does civil disobedience, it's two different things, right? So that's why I said it's also strategically positioning ourselves for where we are in our collective struggle. So I hope that answers your question.
Amen. Yeah, I just wanted to add that the book We Do This Till We Free Us is by Mariam Kaba, if you want to get it out, and Hope is a Discipline is also a quote that she has offered the world. So yeah, thank you, Nanre. Other questions, thoughts? Yes. Videographer.
Actually, it's just a quote based on what you just said about bad laws and civil disobedience and so on. I've been hearing Justin Trudeau go on and on and on about the rule of law, the rule of law, the rule of law. So I came up with this saying about 2 years ago. The rule of law is all well and good until it is neither well or good.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. On the same topic of sort of moving away from a punitive and carceral approach to righting wrongs, there was a course at a free online course at the U of A that I took called Indigenous Canada, and they talk about certain systems of justice that people had in place pre-colonization. And one really interesting point that they made is that, you know, obviously if you did if it was a drug offense or whatever, then it's way too harsh. But if you did serious damage to someone and you go to prison, in a way you're almost getting off. Oh,
You're breaking up.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you do serious damage to someone and you go to prison for it, in a way you're almost getting off too easy, because you don't necessarily have to face the person you harmed. And you don't get chances to, you know, directly repair the harm you've done within the community, right? So I feel like moving away from that could be a really interesting place to start.
Yeah, thank you. There's this great book by Danielle Serret in which he talks about accountability and the ways in which the prison system, in everything that it does, goes against accountability, in as much as in order to avoid prison, you have to claim innocence at all costs, right? You have to plead not guilty, and you can continue claiming that you're not guilty even if you quote unquote might be, even while you're in prison, right? So it's a system that, in order to avoid punishment, which obviously we know is cruel and unjust and extremely harmful, you have to sort of cling on to defending something that goes against really the most basic thing, which is admitting that you hurt or you harmed the person that that you did hurt or harm. So thank you for that. I think we maybe might take one last. I don't know how we're doing on time, but yeah, there's a question in the back. Timing.
I think if I heard correctly, in your introductions, you mentioned that the both of you work in education, right? And I was wondering if you had any ideas as to what it would look like for teachers in order for them to keep their classes and their classrooms police-free, or if it's even their role, or if it's up to the administrations, or if teachers should do more to protect their children, their students, I mean.
Thank you. So the question was, what can teachers do, if anything, to make their classrooms police-free? And whether it has to be an administrative decision or if there are things that teachers can actually do. Teacher? Are you a teacher? 16.
Maybe an aspiring. We can't say from here. I can say that. Oh, and then answer the question. No. Okay. I just wanted to respond to the just say something about, yes, while you said to face restorative practice, but I want to make it clear that going to prison can never be getting off easy. So we don't want to minimize what prison is. And one of my good comrades said to me, he had been in and out of prison for his entire life, from when he was 15 to when he was 32. And when we were actually fighting for the police in our city to pay the repercussions for killing a black man, Osaze Osage, he said, we are not going to advocate for sending them to prison because I would never send my worst enemy there. And he had been somebody that had been part of the carceral system. So I just wanted to correct that. I didn't want that to sit. I agree with everything about facing what you said, that facing the consequences, the transformative justice. But we do have to know that the prison is not a place that you're getting off easy. So I just wanted to say that before.
Thank you. And now I forgot.
Oh yeah. So I don't know the process exactly, but I'm just gonna bring hope. In terms that I visited a school that last year there was a violent incident where a student stabbed a teacher. And when I visited the school, I was like, oh, I'm gonna expect like a whole bunch of police officers in the school. It's in Saint Michel. But when I go in the school, I see no police officers. And so I asked a teacher, and she says, oh yeah. When it happened, we were all so deeply like concerned because it's, our kids we have beautiful kids, and we weren't, this was an isolated incident, and we all advocated for there not to be a police presence. So I'm saying this just to say that teachers do have power if they organize, and they do have an impact on, policies in schools and police being in schools. So, I don't know what the process is because I'm not a teacher, but I just want to say that there is a role that, educators, school personnel can play in making sure that there's no police presence, and then also fighting against policing in general in schools.
If you want to add something, Julian?
Thanks so much for that question. I'd actually be interested in what you have to for solutions, because I'm a strong advocate for listening to students and youth, because usually they have the good solutions, but to answer, what I try to do in a classroom is just try to think differently about what it is to be young, and what it is that we need when we're young. So yes, sometimes it gets it gets like agitated or louder, but is that necessarily a bad thing? Is there not a need to express, or sometimes it's boredom, so you have to stay in touch with your class and not try to discipline it all the time, and so many teachers are asked in their training to what they call in French gestion de classe. So it's a corporate imagination, and it's a policing imagination. So get rid of that and bring the child back, like, at the center, and listen as a teacher, because you're learning. So many teachers complain about their students. It's when it's a miracle. It's like really. And so, I mean, if you feel like you want to weigh in on the solutions, please come to the coalition, because we need people like you.
Yeah, come to the coalition. Also, you can become a teacher. Okay. So I just want to answer your question in 3 ways. Can a teacher be transformative? Because we want to also we don't want to take too much space from the concert that's about to happen as well, or is happening. One, can a teacher be transformative? I think we've answered that 100%. You can have a transformative classroom. You can change. You can have a police-free classroom. 2, will you get in trouble? The answer is probably yes. It's a hard time for teachers. It's a hard time for teachers in North America. It's a hard time for teachers globally. Could you get fired for fighting against the system? Yes. But there is power in what we call a critical mass. And so I encourage my teachers, my pre-service teacher trainers, that don't only become a transformative teacher. Join the teachers union. Join an organizing collective. Be part. Form your own collective. You influence government. You have to. You cannot just do one thing. You cannot just. It's just like your parents, right? Your parents, they educate you in your home. They train you. They help bring you up in a certain way. But they also have to prepare you for something else. And so they're also out in the world fighting for a better society for you in whatever way, in whatever profession that they are. Breaking through barriers, whether in any service position that they are, even if they're home. And so that's the second important thing. And 3, I was saying this to some other people before. Become teachers. The chance of a black child not going into the carceral system, not becoming a victim of the prison and pipeline. They have studies now that show just having one black teacher across their entire educational experiences is transformative for black children. And so we need more black teachers. We need more teachers of color. We need those teachers when they get into the system to be supported, to be upheld. And so we also need to have more black teachers. We need to have more transformative teachers in the system. It's absolutely integral. So yeah, if you're considering it, definitely, and you have the ideas. I think you already have some ideas. That's why you asked the question. It's a very important place to be. It's not the most, unfortunately, it's a noble profession, but not everybody respects it. But teachers change lives every day, so 100%.
All right, I think that's a beautiful note on which to close. Thank you all for your attention, your patience, your participation, and we look forward to seeing you again. And now there is a dinner that is going to be served somewhere in that direction. I don't know where. And there's also a concert, I've heard. So please continue having fun. Meet people, connect with people, eat, be merry, be joyful, and thank you again.